Hi everyone, and thanks for being with me. I'm going to talk today about Liz Truss, the woman that you cannot trust, and most of the time, many of you will remember her looking a little like this. Exciting as it is, she's back. The woman that spent 14 days as Prime Minister broke the record, I think, for the shortest period of anyone being a Prime Minister, and one wonders why she was kicked out in the first place. Well, this particular woman is seeking to become more and more relevant as a lettuce is, I think. And so I've taken some recent clips of her at a CPAC conference in the United States with Liz endeavouring to be as relevant as she can, to be as Trump-like as she would like to be, to foster the idea that the left is too woke and that the right is not asleep at the wheel, that they will be there to turn the system around, to make the system a better place for all of us to live, whereby they are controlling absolutely everything. At a time when she particularly espouses the notion that they do not want to do that they want to give the power back to the people. The reality is that those people on her side of politics, Farage and Bannon, are wanting to take away all of your freedoms and rights. We must listen carefully to what they have to say, because as they're talking about your freedoms, what they're meaning is they want to be able to control what you think, what you do, how you behave, whether you can have control over the autonomy of your own body, whether you have the right to be able to vote for whoever you want to, whether or not, and they just want to, these dudes want to try and stay in power as long as they can, and they're fighting an uphill battle in order to win this fight, because most people see through them. However, there is a disturbing minority that think that they are going to take over not only the White House, but the Conservative movement in the UK. Fortunately, we haven't got to that point here in Australia, but my biggest fear is that at some particular point, the likes of Pauline Hanson, Babbitt and Antic will kind of win out, and to some degree, or at least be able to influence enough people to make them a political force. Hopefully not, but we'll have to wait and see. So I'm just going to play these clips, so bear with me as we go through this. I will stop it as we go through it to talk about some of the bizarre things that Liz talks about.
Every government department, every agency is a permanent civil servant in Britain.
How can Britain be saved then?
Well, we need to change that. Because what I found out.
So what she's looking at here is a system a bit like the American system, whereby the public servants, the executive like those people that run departments and so forth, are chosen by the government at this particular point. Now, I do need to say that it is within the rights of all governments to sack those people that are public servants, that head of departments, and that has happened many, many times here in Australia. Happens, I think, in the UK as well. So if you're unhappy with the decisions that are being made, or you do not like the person that's at the top of that tree, then you can sack them. You have that ability, the right, to be able to remove people where necessary. I mean, and one of those examples is the woman that was removed from the post office here in Australia because she gave away a gold watch to somebody, and the Morrison government thought that was so inappropriate. Not that they have ever done anything that would indicate that they would bribe or influence other people. No, Morrison government would never have done that. However, they chose to punish this woman as a result. So we do that, and that the stuff that Truss is talking about isn't necessarily true. But Bannon loves the idea, I think, that they could become more Americanized. So good on the Brits, that you can become more like them, those people in the US.
I would be able to implement those conservative policies.
So you think once you're Prime Minister, as a little girl, I was thinking, if I get Prime Minister, I'll be like Churchill, I'll change the country.
Exactly.
That's not how it works.
Exactly. And what I discovered was that I was not holding the levers. The levers were held by...
So in other words, people pushed back against Liz and some of her crazy ideas. And I guess one of the advantages of having an independent, they're not government, independent public service is that they can push back on ideas that they think generally are inappropriate and that are harmful to the populace. And remember that these people have got lots of experience in terms of being able to decipher what is of benefit to the public without fear of having to lose their seat, without fear of having to become political. But for Liz, that doesn't seem to matter too much.
By the Bank of England, by the Office of Budget Responsibility, they weren't held by the Prime Minister.
Are you a conspiracy theory person? You almost sound like Worm. You're MAGA.
What I'm saying, Steve, is that if the Bank of England governor can't be sacked and the Prime Minister can be sacked, then the Bank of England governor is going to have more power than the Prime Minister. So we need a cadre of people as well in Britain who are...
I think this demonstrates how little this woman understands her own political system. Now, they work under the Westminster system, as we do here in Australia. And so they're identical systems to a large extent, except they have a Privy Council and they have the House of Lords, and which do some voting, but we have the Senate, which is an elected body. House of Lords are not elected, they're appointed and so on. They have a stuffed up system as well. Our system, incidentally, was probably the better of the Westminster system, and the Senate idea, of course, came from the United States. So we combined the two to have what I consider a far better system with checks and balances, and particularly with a Senate that can range from the two major parties to minor parties having influence and representing the states specifically. So we have a far better system than they do, but I think Liz wants them to be more and more Americanised.
Britain, who are prepared to serve. We need Conservatives who are prepared to fight, and we need grassroots people. It's why I'm developing a new movement called Popular Conservatism, who are actually going to come and back real Conservatives.
It's called what now?
Put pressure, popcorn, Popular Conservatism. But it's going to put real pressure on Conservative MPs to be Conservative, because they need to change things. You know, we've got a massive problem with immigration in Britain, but we cannot deport illegal immigrants because the left are fighting us in the courts. The vast majority in Britain.
So one of the concepts that she wants to get rid of, which is rather disturbing, is the power and influence of the courts, who we must remember are simply those people that interpret legislation. And if you wish to change the way the courts are interpreting legislation, the best way to do that is to change the legislation itself. And also, here in Australia, of course, we have a constitution. In the UK, they don't have a constitution. We work, I guess, a little bit differently. But certainly, she wants to be able to manipulate the courts so that they will agree with her. And this is fundamentally what her side of politics are endeavouring to do.
Don't want this to happen. They don't want to be a country that is subject to Islamic terrorism. They don't want to be a country that backs Hamas. They're not an anti-Semitic country. So what we have to do is make sure the people of Britain's views are actually reflected in the policies that are carried out in Britain.
And for some particular reason, she's the person that is so in touch with the people's views that she knows what it is that they want. It was clear by her sacking and dismissal that the people in charge certainly didn't want her. And the interesting thing for me is that now she's wandered off to the United States to this CPAC conference to talk to them about all these wonderful and exciting ideas that she's got that are so Trump-like that it's quite amazing. In the interview she does, which I also have a clip of, but I won't be playing for you, is she does this interview with Nigel Farage where she's asked, do you think Trump can win the election and so forth. She doesn't actually answer the question, but what she does say is she doesn't want Biden there because she believes that when Biden, when she was Secretary of State, whatever it was, Foreign Minister, she actually found that Trump was far more engaging than what Biden is. And that's probably because the Biden government probably pushed back a little bit against her. And I'm not familiar with what time she served in that, but I'm quite sure that she found her ideas were far more acceptable by Trump, hence the reason why she wants Biden to go and she wants Trump to take over. So let me know what you think about Lettuce Head, because I find her ideas rather obnoxious, and that she's heading into a direction which is extreme right, and she's also looking for some sense of relevance, because in the UK, she is totally irrelevant. Let me know what you think in the comment section below, and also remember to subscribe to my channel and ring the bell for further notifications. Thanks everybody for being with me. Take care, look after yourselves, and more importantly, be safe.